What's going on, everyone? This is Gaurav and welcome to my learning channel. So in today's video, we're going to learn about how to aggregate a data frame in Pandas by a group by function. So without any further delay, let's get started. First, let's take a look at the data that we are going to reference today. So we will take a look at the first 5 records for this data frame df1. So this is the transaction level data where we have 5 variables. First variable is your customer ID, and then you have product code, date, amount, and quantity. So this data is at a transaction level. For every customer, we will have multiple records. So as you can see here that this customer, which is customer ID 1, has made 2 transactions. So the first transaction was on January 1st, the second one was on January 2nd. And then this person has bought 2 products, which is product A1 and product B1. The amount for the product A1 was $100, amount for product B1 was $200, and then quantity was 25 and 24. Now, as we can see how the data looks like, let's get to the group by part. If you know SQL, then you probably already know what do we mean when we say a group by function. However, if you don't know SQL, that's absolutely fine. I will explain the group by function right now. So group by function, first of all, collate all the data into a smaller bins or categories as per the details provided by the user. And once you have collated the data into a smaller bins, you can perform various mathematical functions on top of it. Let's take a look at few examples to better understand this. So first, let's group by df1. And the way to write group by is, so the way to write a group by is, first of all, you will write the name of data frame and then afterwards dot, then group by, and then the variable. Let's quickly run this. So this essentially creates an object, but we don't know what exactly is in this object. So first of all, let's store this object in another data frame. Let's just say that you have df2 equals to, and then we'll go ahead, copy this entire code right here, and let's run this. Now let's write another command, which is df2.sum, and let's run this as well. So now you can see that you have some output. Let's understand what's happening here. So first of all, we have already seen how the overall data frame looks like. You have customer ID, you have product ID, and then afterwards you have 2 numerical variables called amount and quantity. Now for customer ID 1, as you can see that you have 2 records. For these 2 records, the amount is 100 and 200, and quantity is 25 and 24. So when I did a group by on top of df1 and stored it in df2, first of all, the code collated the entire data frame into smaller bins, and those bins were decided based off of your customer ID, which is what we have mentioned here. Once we have categorized the data into smaller bins, we just did a simple summation function on top of it. So as an output, you can see that for customer ID 1, you have 2 variables. As an output, you have amount and quantity, but now you can see that amount is 300 and quantity is 49. So 300 is nothing but a summation of 100 and 200, and over here quantity 49 is nothing but a summation of 25 and 24. Now just the way you have written sum, you can apply other mathematical functions as well. So let's take a look at that. However, for the time being, I'm not going to use df2, but rather I'll go ahead and use df1 itself. And for each and every step, I'll go ahead and group by. This way, you will be able to see how we can apply multiple functions on the same data frame. So let's get started from here. I'll go ahead and copy this. And now I'll go ahead and apply another function. Let's just say it is mean. Mean is nothing but average. So now you can see that for every customer, rather than getting a summation, we are getting a mean, which is the average. So for our first customer, we already know that the amounts were 100 and 200. So average for 100 and 200 is 150. And similarly, the amount was 24 and 25. So the average is 24.5. You can apply all sorts of different functions on top of this group by. So you can have min, max, median, mode, summation, count. Let's apply count real quick. So as a part of count, you can see that you have a lot more details coming in. So earlier we had just amount and quantity, but now you have few more details. So why is that happening? Let's understand that. But first of all, let's take a look at the details that we're getting in as a part of this data frame. So over here, we can see that for customer ID 1, count for each and every variable is 2. This is because for customer ID 1, you have 2 records and both of the records have all of these variables populated. So you have product code, you have date, you have amount and quantity, and all of them are populated. That's why you can see that you have 2 different entries. Now, what if one of these entries are null? So say for instance, one of the product code is null, in which case the count is not going to be 2, but rather the count is going to be 1. Now coming back to the first question, which is why did we only see amount and quantity when we were doing things like mean or max or sum, but once we did a count, then we can see all 4 different variables. See, this is because product code and date, these are not numerical variables. Your product code is alphanumerical and your date is a date. So you cannot apply a mathematical functions like sum or mean on top of it. However, when it comes to amount and quantity, these are numerical variables. So you can apply all sorts of different mathematical functions like mean, max, min, and count, etc. So hopefully this would have given you somewhat understanding of what is group by trying to do. Now let's introduce another function, which is AGG or aggregate function. So first of all, let's copy this. Let's write it here real quick. And then afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and write AGG. So first of all, I'll go ahead and write the code and then I'll explain what's happening. So in order for us to write the code for AGG, I will have to introduce a curly brackets here. And then afterwards, whatever variable that we want to have AGG, which is aggregate for. So let's just say that I want to have it for amount. So I'm going to go ahead and write it over here. And then afterwards, I'll write a colon. And then within a large bracket, you'll go ahead and write the list of variables that you want as an output. So let's say, for instance, I want min, I want max, I want sum, and I want mean. I want all of these variables as an output. So let's quickly run it and then I'll explain what's happening. Now you can see as an output for each and every customer, for every customer ID, you have 4 variables. So you have min, max, sum, and mean, which are the 4 different variables that you have specified here. But this is only coming for one variable now, which is amount, given we had specified amount here. So aggregate function essentially gives you a flexibility to calculate multiple mathematical function for a given particular variable. So in this case, let's say for instance, if I don't want to calculate anything for quantity, but rather I would like to calculate all sorts of different variables like min, max, sum, and mean for amount, then in that case, I can use something like aggregate. Again, as I said, the syntax is fairly simple. First of all, you will write the name of data frame. Afterwards, you will write the variable on which you would like to have a group by. So here we want to have a group by on customer ID. And then you will write aggregate within curly brackets. You will write the name of the variable and what type of functions would you like to apply. Now, one of the rule of thumb in Pandas is that whenever you have more than one entry for a similar kind of a function, like for instance over here you have min, max, sum, mean, or similar kind of a variables, then you will always have to put it in the big bracket. This is nothing but a list. So essentially we are creating a dictionary first of all. The curly bracket is for dictionary, and within the dictionary you have amount, and then afterwards what are the different operations we would like to have on top of amount, which is your min, max, sum being mentioned here. Now in case you are feeling that this is only for amount and I would like to add one more variable, which is quantity, so you can do that as well. So let's first of all copy this code right here, and then afterwards I'm going to go ahead and add quantity as well. So let's say that I want to have quantity 2, and let's just go ahead and execute this code. So now you can see that you have amount and quantity, and for both of them, you have 4 different variables. You have min, max, sum, and mean that has been calculated for every customer. So essentially aggregate function gives you a flexibility that you can perform all sorts of different mathematical function like min, max, sum, etc. on various variables like amount and quantity here, all at the same time. So you don't have to do it step by step. So far, all of the operations that we have done, or all of the examples that we have done, pretty much everywhere the group by was done on top of customer ID. Now, what if I want to have a group by which is on top of more than one variable? So we can do that as well. Let's take a look at that. So first of all, let's copy this code right here. And now let's say that rather than customer ID, I would like to do this operation on top of customer ID as well as product code. So for that, again, as I said earlier, once you're in a situation where you have more than one variable or more than one operations and you would like to collate it in one place, Pandas always give you a flexibility to put everything in like one list. So that's exactly what we are going to do here. So apart from customer ID, I would also like to have product code. Let's add that here. Let's close this bracket. And then let's say that I want to have the variable called summation for each one of these individual bins. So let's trigger this. So now you can see that the entire data frame has been grouped by customer ID as well as product code. And for the individual bins, which is formed based on these 2 variables, for amount and quantity, I'm getting the summation. So this way you can keep on adding more variables as a part of your group by. Once you do that, then it will create a cross tabulation between these 2 variables, and you will have lots of different bins. So say for instance, in this particular example, you have customer ID 1. And for customer ID 1, you have 2 different product codes because these are the 2 transactions that the person had done. So you have product code A1 and you have product code B1. And for each one of these bins, which is formed by a cross tabulation of your customer ID and product code, you have the summation of amount and summation of quantity as well. Now let's try to combine last 2 codes where first of all, we'll group by multiple variables. And on top of it, we will perform multiple mathematical functions. So let's copy this piece of code right here. And then afterwards, let's get the aggregate function. Let's add a dot here. Now, as you can see that you have data frame df1. Then afterwards, we are performing a group by function. This group by is being done based on 2 variables. So you have customer ID and product ID. And then afterwards, I'm asking the prompt to do an aggregation. For aggregation, I would like to do the aggregation on 2 variables, which is amount and quantity. And for each one of these variables, I would like to perform the mathematical functions, which is min, max, sum, and mean. Now let's trigger this code. So as you can see that the code has created the bins, which is based off of first 2 variables. So you have customer ID and product code. And based on the cross tabulation of these 2 variables, all sorts of different bins are formed. And for each and every bin, for amount and quantity, you can see that we have min, max, sum, and mean. So hopefully this would have given you a good idea about what is group by function, how to use it, and what is the aggregate function. Now there is one more small topic that I would like to quickly introduce here and just leave you with that, which is we will take df2 and then on top of it, we will write a function called describe and we'll trigger that. Now, as a part of an output, you can see that for every customer, you have a lot more variables being created. So you have count, you have mean, you have standard deviation, STD is standard deviation, you have minimum, and then you have 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, and then maximum. And this has been done for both numerical variables, which is amount and quantity. So this function is essentially a combination of all of the things that we have done in sort of one place, but a lot. So rather than looking at min, max, or mean, we are also looking at count, standard deviation, and then 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and 75th percentile. Now, in case you are thinking that how am I going to use this, this function is actually very handy whenever you're trying to do any kind of exploratory data analysis. So let's say, for instance, if you want to build any model, or if you are just exploring a completely new data, then with the help of this function describe, you will get a very good idea on what's happening within this data set. But as you can see that you're getting a ton of details all in one place. Now say for instance, if you have 50 or 60 different numerical variables like amount, quantity, and so on, then you can imagine the size of this output. And that's where functions like group by and aggregation gives you the right level of flexibility where you can add the details that you needed as a part of your output. So that'd be all for this video. In the next video, we'll first of all understand what is join and merge. And then afterwards, we'll try to perform join, merge, and append functions in Pandas. Thank you so much. Wish you a happy learning.